When you think about Singapore's most important ally, you may be in a bit of a dilemma. News publications often point out to China or the United States or some of its neighboring countries in Southeast Asia. Yet, for some reason, one of the most important friends to Singapore lies not within its regional reach or one of the superpowers, but rather one that is really far from the country. A country that you may have already guessed, Israel. Israel has surprisingly become an important ally to Singapore, and the reason for this doesn't even belong to monetary means such as trade or investment, but rather a connection that stems from national security. Yes, that is surprisingly the cause. There was once a time when Israel helped Singapore build out its armed forces. It was even done at a time when the world wasn't as bright as it is today. Most Singaporeans know this, the moment when the country received its independence from Malaysia. A dark time, as some say. So just how did Israel, a country that is thousands of miles away from Singapore, somehow find its way as a key player in Singapore's national security? Well, here's how. When Singapore first received its independence, it was vulnerable. In fact, it really had a very small army, which some even say to be non-existent at all. So as a starter, Singapore had to build out its army. Who to turn to? Israel, of course, said Singapore. From all the countries in the world which it could ask for help, Singapore turned to Israel for help. Now, Israel had its fair share of survival since its own declaration of independence in 1948. Being a young state facing its own regional challenges, Israel has amassed significant expertise in defense and military strategy. And when Singapore's first Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew sought help in 1965 to establish a credible defense force, Israel answered the call. Israel then sent military advisors to Singapore. But during these times, it was even done in secret, since there was a sensitive geopolitical climate at the time. They were even referred to as the Mexicans, which was to maintain secrecy. And eventually, these so-called Mexicans were sent to help and establish what is now known as the Singapore Armed Forces. The plan was simple. It saw these Israeli experts working side by side with Singaporeans, modeling Singapore's defense after the Israeli Defense Force. It was recalled that Singapore recruits had undergone a rigorous military regime, a practice adopted directly from the IDF. The focus was on building a disciplined and efficient military from the citizens of Singapore who until then had little to no experience in defense matters. And the Israelis didn't just impart knowledge, they also shared their ethos of survival. The training emphasized resourcefulness, quick thinking, and adaptability, traits that had been instrumental in Israel's own survival. This mindset was crucial for a small nation like Singapore that couldn't rely on sheer numbers for defense. During this time, the Israeli advisors also assisted in setting up Singapore's military academies and schools where the future leaders of the SAF would be trained. They introduced modern military education, tactical training, and leadership programs modeled after their own military establishments. One key milestone was the establishment of compulsory military service for all Singaporean men, a system also inspired by Israel's conscription model. This national service would ensure that the entire male population could be mobilized for the country's defense, instilling a sense of shared responsibility and nationalism. And by 1967, Singapore's first officer cadets had been commissioned upon completing courses conducted by advisors from the Israel Defense Forces, while more than 9,000 young Singaporean national service conscripts were enlisted, also upon training by the Israelis. Israel's enduring reputation as an invaluable friend, extending its crucial support during Singapore's most precarious moments, continues to be deeply cherished by the people of Singapore. They attribute the genesis of the Singapore Armed Forces to this unwavering alliance. But fast forward to the mid-1970s, Israeli advisors were now slowly leaving the country. As the decades progressed, the two countries' relationship only continued to grow. Singapore hosted Israeli leaders, such as then-Israeli President Chaim Herzog, whose visit in 1986 drew public protests in Singapore's neighboring countries. The demonstration proved that the two countries' relationship was as bright as ever, despite Singapore's neighbors' opposition. Even Singapore's Foreign Minister George Yeo, who served from 2004 to 2011, was appointed to visit key sites in Israel and an Israeli Air Force base in his younger years as a new Republic of Singapore Air Force captain. Yeo stated much about his experience, saying he, quote, had a sense of the intensity of daily life in Israel. so many personal friendships now bind our two countries together. Throughout the more than 50-year-long history of the two relations, there was also a significant amount of arms trade. These ranged from tanks, air-to-ground missiles such as the Barak missile, and the Hermes drone system. There are also fighter jets equipped with the latest Israeli electronic devices and warships. To go into more detail, the Heron 1 unmanned aerial vehicle was used by the Singapore Army. It's an aircraft made by Israel Aerospace Industries and has capabilities of flying for 2 days without refueling. The Hermes 450 is another Israeli UAV aircraft which the Republic of Singapore Air Force operates. Like the Heron, it has wielded capabilities to help defend the country. Some of the other equipment include the Spider SAM system, Python 4, Elta Systems EL-M2084, Soltem M65, Matador, Spike, and UFED used by the Singapore police. Between 2014 and 2019, it was reported that $61 million worth of arms trade happened between these two countries. Now, these are just one of the many stories out there, yet it proves just how important Israel has become to Singapore's earlier days. However, that was just, in fact, the start of it all. Since 1997, approximately 2,250 Israeli and Singaporean researchers and engineers have participated in Singapore-Israel Industrial Research and Development Foundation projects, which too is a testament to the two countries' shared vision for growth and prosperity. There are even joint ventures and cooperation in the cybersecurity space and intelligence services. It was reported that in September 2011, the Singapore government announced the establishment of the National Cybersecurity Center to boost its capabilities to counter cybersecurity threats. Israeli IT and cybersecurity companies that are present in Singapore include Checkpoint Security, GTB Technologies, NICE Systems, and Elbit Systems. The two defense establishments have cooperated on a range of programs from homeland security to cyber, including state-owned Israel Aerospace Industries' 2014 establishment of a Cyber Early Warning Research and Development Center in Singapore. Of course, there are also trade and investments between the two. Collective trade in 2022 amounted to a whopping $3.8 billion. These range from machinery, medical, and transportation products, and Singapore has also been investing in Israel in recent years. Temasek Holdings, Singapore's sovereign wealth fund, had established the Tau Fund investment. In 2021, foreign direct investment from Israel was 3.9 billion Singaporean dollars, and Singapore's direct investment abroad to Israel was 2.9 Singaporean dollars. It is also important to know that Singapore has always been keen on working with Israeli business. Back in 2015, it was reported by the Times of Israel that Singapore was seeking to be Israel's window to Asia. That's because there is a huge cultural gap between the two, which, as the article stated, makes it a reason why Israeli companies don't invest a lot in Asia. Now, we can go on, but I think it's pretty clear the two countries share a very distinct relationship. But then again, you may ask, why? Why is Singapore, a country that is not even in the Middle East, a good friend of Israel? Well, many observers note that the two countries share close characteristics. These range from being a very small country surrounded by big countries with a big religious population, to even being economic miracles themselves. But anyway, do let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.